Hello, everybody. It's Cree Rama from Junk Journal Divas, and today I am putting together this altered envelope journal. This is for a swap in Junk Journal Divas. So come on over and join me in the group if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun. I'm starting off with two craft envelopes here. So these are really nice and thick, the paper. So I'm opening them up because I want to stencil them and I want to get the stencil down inside the envelope also. So everything that's going to be shown is covered with something. So I start off and I'm using my little brush, but it just wasn't giving enough coverage. So I ended up just getting my mini ink pad. And so you can see here, I'm just rubbing my mini ink pad on and this worked much better. Then I'm just trying to line up my stencil a little bit. I'm not being too particular about it. Just to make sure that the whole entire outside of the envelope is done. And then now I'll do a little bit where you'll be able to see when the flap is open. Then I'm doing the same exact thing for the second envelope. And here I'm just closing them back up again. So I knew that I wanted the craft envelopes to be my front and back cover, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do and how I was setting this up here, so just sort of playing around with it. I have these two square envelopes and one is slightly smaller than the other one, so I had the idea to do like a little staggered look with them. And then this cover, I actually had started this project, but my envelope was not thick enough, so I just cut it off of that envelope and I thought I'll put it on the craft paper envelope. So I have a small envelope that's wrapping around the back. So it's wrapping around the back cover. And so right now I'm attaching it to the front cover. And then jumping around a little bit, now I'm looking at the front cover and thinking about what I want to do here. And when I was cleaning up, I saw this little piece of fabric and I thought this would go perfect on there. So I'm just using a little bit of double-sided tape to stick it on, and then I do go over it with my sewing machine afterwards. So I stitched that little piece on, the little dark gray piece, and now I'm using more of the double-sided tape, and then I add some glue to it also. And I'm only doing one side and the bottom so that it kind of creates a little tuck pocket area behind it. And it probably would have been a good idea before I shut my envelopes after I did my stencil. I could have sewn this down onto it, but now that it's closed up, the glue is fine. And I did a whole bunch of messy sewing around this cover, so it looks like it was sewn anyway. So now that I have that done, I'm going to attach my back cover now. So here's my second craft envelope, and I'm just kind of figuring out how I want to attach these. And of course, inking all the edges, because once things are glued together, it's a lot harder to do the inking in the creases and things. And I also wanted to make a little bit of a spine here, like just give it some leeway, so I do end up doing that. But right now I'm just figuring out how to put all of this together. I'm attaching the staggered envelopes to the front cover. So it's going to go front cover and then the two staggered envelopes, and all of the flaps are going to be glued together here. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky, and I am certain that there's an easier way to do this, but I was just kind of playing around and figuring it out as I go. But I wanted to make a little bit of a spine, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I thought, I tore this piece off, and you'll see when I attach the back cover, I do make a little spine. But for now, I'm just gluing this onto my other flaps, and I move it back slightly so I can create my spine. And now you can see I'm attaching this, and you see that little bit of the space that I left there for some goodies to go inside and to stuff my envelopes. And then this back part with all of the flaps, I glued down just on the bottom, so I'm gonna have a tuck. So now just doing a little flip through, seeing what I have. And then in the center, that's where I'm going to add my notebook. So here I'm just gathering some of my painted papers and dyed papers, different colors of greens, and then just kind of put those together, cut them to size, and ink them up around the edges. Just using some paper clips to hold these ends down, because I want to cut a little bit off, and I want this to be, really nice and not necessarily straight, but I didn't want the papers to smush together and get messed up in the trimmer. Now I'm just kind of inking up those edges a little bit. And then once I get this and it fits okay, I'm going to open it up. I am inking this inner page because I want to be able to see that line. And so now I'm just lining it up really well. And I do paper clips all around the edges just to hold it in place really well. And I'm going to go right down that center with a running stitch and sew it together. So here I'm just flipping through and pushing down all the pages. You can see there I did the running stitch, so everything is connected here. And now I'm covering the white part inside the envelope, which I should have done before putting these together, but I didn't, but that's okay because we can fix it. So I'm going to go through and cover those all up so I don't have that bright white space that is popping out. I also changed all of these envelopes. Like I said, this was kind of my first one, so it was like I was just learning as I go. But it's really hard to slide things in and out of these envelopes without ripping it. So that's why I did this, unless you just wanted to use it as a page or something. So that's something to keep in mind. I would adjust the envelopes before connecting them all. It would be a lot easier. So here I'm just adding a piece of paper to cover up the back, and you see I made the pocket a little bit different here. So it's a side slide in, and then some of the other ones I did a corner pocket, like this one. So now I'm happy with my envelopes and the little pockets that they make, and I covered up all of the white areas so I don't have that to worry about. And so we're pretty good to go, and I can kind of start decorating a little bit more now. So moving on, I have all of these different papers that I did. And these were a lot of fun. I embossed them. I already went over them with some ink, and now I'm going over them again with some ink. And just because the ink tends to, smear sometimes, because I did use some Distress oxides, I'm just going over it with some Mod Podge. And I do this also because I love the way that the colors kind of blend together when it gets wet with the glue. And then of course I'm just drying it really well, make sure it's nice and dry. And now I grabbed my foundry wax. I just, I have so many different layers on these. I just couldn't stop playing, and yeah, but it was fun, lots of fun. So I have the foundry wax and just kind of running over this. Now, if you haven't used the foundry wax, guys, it's pretty fun. You just rub it on with your finger or whatever you want to use. And then it does dry very fast, so you have to work pretty quickly. And when you add your heat gun, you only have to go over it for just a very short amount of time, not as long as the embossing glaze. So of course I had to try out every single color that I have. And I went over pretty much all of these, just adding a little bit here and there. And I did already, like I said, some of these, I think I even put some embossing glaze on. I'm not sure if any of the ones here I did that, but like I said, once I start playing, it's like it's a wormhole. I really like this one with the tree design. What I want to do right now is I made a closure. I just sewed this ribbon down on a piece of cardstock, and on this last envelope here, I am just going to glue this down. And then if you want, you can just glue it on the sides here so that you have a little belly band. I think I'm just going to glue the whole thing down. So I'm going to use some of my thicker double-sided tape also. And then I thought I'm going to work on some tags to go inside this little project, and I'll show you, do a little recap of what I have so far. So now we have our little tie closure that's attached to it. And I like that pop of different color green there. So what we have so far is one of my little clusters here. And this one, it's kind of hard to see, but I have some crystals here with gold thread. And this is a wooden bead. I did some couching here. And some little bling pieces. And to use a piece of this cardstock to show where we have pockets. But this behind here is kind of a large tuck pocket. And then we have this pocket here. We have this, and I cut these because they were hard to get in and out of. So I cut this way. And then we have another one here. Dyed papers that I did. And then we have another large one here. I think I might actually make this a corner also. So I might actually do that. And then on the back, did I leave? Yeah, I left this as like a little tuck here for something to poke out of. That would be a great place for one of my little tea bag tags to stick out of. And then we have this back pocket here, and that is it. So I'm going to, for now, put this aside. And I have these pieces because they're approximately the sizes that I can use. So these can be the backs of my tags that I make. And then I have some paper dolls from G&T Designs in all different sizes. I don't think I need these small ones. And I think I'm going to use some more of my snarky quotes that I have. So let's see here. Then we have these prints back to the 40s. Let's see. They're pretty good for snarky comments, huh? Some wings. And I have more wings. These are from Whimsical Wings. It also comes with fairies. Okay, so to do the other side of these, I'm going to cover these with some of my fun papers that I did. Okay, so now I have these covered on the backs, and I am going to start turning them into tags. These paper dolls were not fairies, but I used the wings from one of the other kits to turn them into fairies, of course. And then I'm using some of my paper lace on these and just inking it up before I glue it down. And again, I use quite a bit of glue and just sort of smash it into the glue and then just trim off the excess. Here I have some of the food packaging that I use distress oxide sprays and different things on to paint it. And I figured out that if you kind of pull it apart and press, like smash it down, it stays open, the little cut spaces. And I'm just using it just like the paper lace, kind of smashing it down into the glue here. And this one I'm layering a little bit of the paper lace with the food packaging, just kind of roughing up the edges. And I did go around just lightly with some ink on the edges of it. So I'm not going to show every single one that I did because it's pretty much the same process here of just layering things up. I did go around the edges like I usually always do and just do some sewing. And it also helps just hold down that paper lace at the bottom. Then while I was sewing, I kind of had this idea, what would happen if I went over the paper lace with some Mod Podge? So that's what I decided to try. And I wanted to try this just because, if you're trying to squeeze these down into a pocket that's kind of tight, I was afraid that some of the paper lace would flake off or, so I thought, what's this going to look like? So I thought I would experiment. And then I saw these dried botanical pieces and thought, well, let me just experiment with these too. So I've done this before where I put a layer of tissue paper. I would put some glue, the botanical down, and then tissue paper on top of it, and then some more glue, kind of like a decoupage. But I thought, what would happen if I just went over it with the Mod Podge? So that's what I decided to try, and it turned out great. So I put a pretty generous helping of Mod Podge down and then just laid my dried botanicals on top of it and then just really lightly tried to go over top of it with some glue again. So that's what I'm doing here. And I tried a couple of different things, and then I also tried some dried flowers, pressed flowers. This one I wasn't so sure about, but it's actually one of my favorites now that it's finished. It almost looks like a tree because I used a really long sprig of the botanical piece here. And this one also, she has a little flower in her hat, but you can't even really see it. So I just had the idea to put a flower there. So I layer the flowers up and wait to see how this turned out at the end here. So my tags are all done, and now I'm going to go through my project and figure out which tags I want to put in which pockets. I already put one in here. Didn't even remember doing that. Okay, so maybe I'll keep her in there. I don't know, I really love this one though. I want to make sure this one goes in there. With the blue flower and my lady. Another pretty large one. And then I do have this on the back. Oh, look at that. That slides in there nicely. Okay, I thought I'd have a bunch left over, but I'm okay. I think I'll keep this one out because it is very thick here. And this would be a good one because it's more flat to slide down in this front pocket. And I'm just going to cover this on the inside a little bit. So let's do that. And then I'm just going to kind of lay this down and push it into my double-sided tape. Okay, so I just did a little stitch there. Guess I can do this girl that I want to put on the front. And I want to put lots of fun stuff hanging off of her. So I like this topper with all the different textures and fibers there. There, I like that. Now this girl. Okay, then we got this one. I'm pretty excited here because I am back with a flip through. I thought I was just going to do a couple of pages, decorating some things, and I just ended up finishing this. So I'm excited to show you guys. Let's open her up. You all know everything about the cover here. And I have my tag here. I wish more people were fluent in silence. And that look on her face. So this is the one I tucked into the front. This is one of my favorite parts of books is all the stuff, you know, the fun stuff that sticks out. So I wanted some more stuff sticking out. So I decided to put a ruffle here. And I didn't want to go too crazy to make things bulky in here because it's already, you know, pretty bulky. I tend to go crazy, so I got to really think about what I'm doing. And I changed the sayings. This one says, "In my defense, I was left unsupervised." And again, you guys, I just want to show you that food packaging. I really love the way that turned out with the Mod Podge on top. So I'll definitely be doing that again. So there's this tag, and these are really, really nice and thick. Here I had this huge butterfly with some glaze on, of course. So I just put that on here and a little bit of some lacy stuff. And then flip it over. I put 2 leaves here, outline those, a messy outline. And I have a little card here. And this one says, I'd like to announce that I have no idea what I'm doing. I have these little cards from G&T Designs. So, but I did have to cut off some of the, had like a nice little frame around it, and it was just a little, it was too big. So I had to cut that off, and I just did some messy sewing around it and backed it with some tea-dyed paper. So that's tucked in there. And then over here, here's some more of that food packaging, and I added Mod Podge on top of it. So yeah, I'm really liking that because it just makes it, I don't know, a little more sturdy. Used one of my fabric mushrooms and a Tim Holtz die cut, butterfly die cut. Side, I just added a little flower with a button. And then this one, life is not a fairy tale. If you lose a shoe at midnight, you're drunk. That just cracked me up. I had to use that. So here's the other card. And here I wanted to put one of my botanical, my little faux wax seal embellishments. And I do have a bunch, I think I have at least 2 tutorials making things like this. And I turned it into a paper clip. And then I just added another one of these cute little mushroom cards. And of course on my papers here. And the hard part about this is going to be waiting for the swap to mail this out, to find out who my partner is, and then mail it out. And I can't show the video until after, of course, because I don't, you know, what if my partner is somebody who watches my channel? So I'm gonna have to patiently, I'm gonna have to be patient, and I'm gonna have to wait to share this. Another little ribbon that I made with some fabric pieces. And here's one of my other cards. Not only does my mind wander, sometimes it takes off completely. That's so me. Then we're coming back here. So here you can see I added more of that food packaging, some embossed paper, more of those glazed mushrooms, some die cuts over here. So that's kind of, you know, just kept it a little simple. And just these 2 little cards here. And then on this side, and you see since I cut these, how easy it is to get things in and out. So I'm happy that I did that. And this one says, I'm not childish, you're just a big duty head. And again, the Mod Podge on top of the paper lace just really helps to make those easy to slide in and out. That is the end. Got a closure here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project, and thank you for being with me and playing along here. I'm happy with the way this one turned out. Thank you so much for watching, you guys.